Fathers in sitcoms are usually bumbling buffoons, deadbeat dads, or need anger management. And it's not just a lack of good dads here either. Honestly, most of the male characters that you see across media, both young and old, they're not great. Classic cartoon kids are almost...
It is the case, though, that this is kind of a reflection of the broader, social conditioning that, like, all parents get, but specifically dads in this instance, where they're expected to be kind of this way. And sure, it's, like, caricaturized in the media that's being referenced here, but it's a caricature of an already bad thing and a thing that actually exists in actual reality. The tough love, the corporal punishment, like spanking and whatnot, the toxic standards for either masculinity or femininity, depending on like the child in question here, what their assumed gender is. There's a lot of negative consequences to that kind of social conditioning that leads fathers to think they're doing a good thing when it turns out a lot of the time it's literally abuse. And that's not good, in my opinion. I think that, child abuse is bad, as it would turn out. MatPat being pro-trans and base. But that's just a theory. A gender theory. Thanks for watching. What is this?
So to start things out, it should be noted that gender identity for young children doesn't really become a factor for several years into their life. According to research, most kids don't start to identify with one gender or another until the age of 3. And it's important that they're encouraged to explore that at their own pace. The last thing we want to do is to sort kids who are still discovering themselves into boxes. And likewise, children can of course have role models who are not the same sex or gender that they are. It is awesome for boys to have role models who are women, vice versa, and everyone beyond and in between the binary. So to start things...
So true. Which is why I've always said that I think, as a default, one kid should be assigned non-binary at birth. Obviously, you still make note of the biological sex and yada yada for medical records and medical reasons. And then you kind of just raise your child in a non-binary capacity, which is not to say that you don't, like, you just buy all gray and nothing fun or whatever, but rather you let them choose. So, like, you start off before they can really have much of a preference for one kind of toys or the other, or like kind of clothes or the other. You just get like a good helping of the different options. So in the very simplistic sense, a dress or not a dress, like pants and a shirt or whatever. And then you could like either go with your preference or like alternate them. And then eventually once, the kid is old enough to be able to like gravitate more toward one or another, you would just let them choose. So like you could do the thing literally where like you have like Morpheus holding up the red and blue pill. Like, okay, here's G.I. Joe, the blue pill, and here's Barbie, the red pill. And you see which one the kid chooses, and if they decide to find out how deep the rabbit hole goes and they pick the Barbie, more power to them, Or if they pick the G.I. Joe and want to remain sheeple, it is what it is, but, And then you do that, and, like, eventually, once they, then get old enough to be able to verbalize, their interests and be like, oh, I want to play soccer, blah, 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 then you just allow them to do that. Little Johnny wants to wear a dress like Samantha wears in his class. Doesn't hurt nobody. I don't give a shit. That's how I always thought, that should work. When it comes to, like, name choices, theoretically, in an ideal world, what you would do, like, you would start with a name that you've chosen as the parent, and then you would just allow for them to choose their own name down the line, and just allow that to be an option. Like, hey, we've called you XYZ, and we thought it was a really nice name for you. And if you like it, hell yeah. And if you don't, you could always change it, and we'll allow you to do that, and we'll just call you whatever name it is. Obviously within reason. If your kid wants to call themselves, when they're like not even like an adult, if they want to call themselves like XXX Ichiko 420XX Sakura X, like you probably shouldn't allow that. Mostly because it'll probably present them difficulties in life. If they want to do that as an adult, that's their choice, okay? But since you're a parent, ideally you know better and you're able to like, okay, maybe that's not the best idea. If we could go with some other options, like what if you wanted the name just Sakura, It's a pretty flower. Could be cool, You would do like that. Yeah, like you wouldn't want a child to be named like XAE17, that would be cringe and probably open up the child to a variety of difficulties in life. I don't think anybody would do that, of course, name their infant child something, ludicrous like that. Certainly, if they did, they probably wouldn't also dump $44 billion into buying a social media website at a massively inflated price, and then also try to get out of it after realizing it's a stupid idea, but then get sued to stay in it because the people who want to make money off of your dumb decision want to make money. That wouldn't happen. But, ideally, parents know better. I think ideally names wouldn't be so gendered to begin with. That's the idea, right? Like maybe, like if you really wanted to as a parent, you could like choose a so-called gender-neutral name, like Sam or Alex or whatever. But I do think it's fine to just choose a name, even if it has a very gendered connotation, as long as like you're still allowing them to explore if they like blue or pink more and yada yada yada. And then once they're old enough, be like, yo, if you want to change your name, it's all good. Like, if you want to pick another one, we can help you. We do like, that we've named you 420 Goku Luffy 90210. Like, we do like that name that we gave you, but if you want to go with something else, like Jonathan, that's fine with us. Choking back tears. I mean, we did really like that name, but anyway, very cool. Love to see MatPat being very poggers. Hey, come here. Listen to me, come here. I've got something for you. And it may or may not be legal in your state of residence. I encourage you to look it up. We've got, if you haven't already overdosed on my content, we've got another channel for you. Conure Channel 2. Wow, look at that. It's very cool. It's got a nice banner as well. It says Conure Channel 2. Above it, in katakana, Japanese, it says Konniwa Channel ni. And below, in Spanish, it says Canal de Conure Dos. So you could read that 3 ways. It's good stuff. We'll have gaming, we'll have miscellaneous segments. We'll likely upload as much, if not more, than the main channel. I think it's probably good, like, second monitor content, where you just, like, listen to it in its background noise while you, I don't know, elope with somebody's mother in a long-winded way of trying to get back at them because they've wronged you in some way. And I think she'll enjoy it, too. So, go subscribe. And, you may regret it, but at that point, you just leave it subbed. And whenever new videos come out, just watch them and put it at 1% volume and just let it run, No harm to you, I don't think, unless you have, like, a data cap. Anyway, appreciate you. So apparently it's on his last video in film theory. I wonder what the main topic of it was. Film theory. From 7 hours ago. Film theory finale. Don't trust your heroes. What is this about?
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Film Theory, the show that's now entering its Zaddy era. Today I wanted to start off with a question. I want you to think about all the media that you consumed during your childhood, all the TV shows and movies that you loved as a kid. And now, with the perspective that you've gained as you've gotten older, can you name for me 5 good father figures from children's media? I'm talking about wholesome dads who want the...
Define good. So I guess he's about to do it.
Best for their kids, who try really hard to teach them and nurture them and show them love and all the good things that dad should be doing.
I think, so the first person that comes to mind is the dad from Powerpuff Girls. That said, I forget the origin of the Powerpuff Girls. So, like, this is my question. Were the Powerpuff Girls like regular human infants? And then the dad turned them into the superheroes that they are? Or were they created in a lab? They were created? That's a bit more ethical than if you were doing experiments, So they were created, not born. So technically, he's the father figure there. And it was an accident. That is true. So that's a bit more ethical. So that would be a strike against him for a good dad, if it was the case that they were regular human infants first. But they were not. It's worth noting he was trying to make the kids anyway, which is a strike against them. Because, like, that kind of medical research is interesting. Don't get me wrong. But I don't think he was doing it in a sanctioned and regulated capacity. And because of that, he upset the balance of power within nature on Earth, if not the universe, as we come to find out. So maybe that wasn't the best play. But let's see. So, like, I watch Fairly Odd Parents. The dad in that show is not a good father figure at all. Because it is usually the case that dads in a lot of media like this, even sitcoms aimed at adults, they're the comic relief. Like, oh, look at this incompetent dad, he's very dumb, but he puts food on the table and he's very endearing in his own way. And there's like a lot of negatives with that trope, and it's a pretty common one. But I think you could do it in a way that's not negative either. Like incompetence being helped along by like a more competent mother figure or dad too figure or whatever. Non-binary parental figure could be really nice, and like it could be a good way to demonstrate how people help each other because they have their own strengths and weaknesses and whatnot. But oftentimes it's just used to make fun of men because it's more socially acceptable to do so because they're in a position of power, not based on merit, but rather on social conditioning to preferential treatment on men simply for having been born with the certain chromosomes that make you have testosterone as your dominant hormone, rather than the alternative or alternatives. And that's why it's a bit more socially acceptable to make fun of them, because you're kind of punching up depending on how you do it. But a lot of the times it just seems like we're making fun of people for no reason. Not always, though, because often there are, like, shitty dads in this media, and they're made fun of because they're shitty, and yada, yada, yada. But anyway. So what about, SpongeBob's parents. They're not really in the picture that much, because SpongeBob is an adult. Well, at least he's like a young adult, right? Because he's got a job. He's trying to get his boating license. So you usually have to be, like, 16 to get a learner's permit, I think, in the States, to be able to drive with a learner's permit. And then at 18, I think, you get, like, your actual driver's license. You get the graduated one. So, like, he's already old enough to be living on his own, and he does live on his own. So I guess we don't know a whole lot about SpongeBob's upbringing. But, like, SpongeBob is a pretty decent human being. I'm expanding the definition of human, by the way. I'm a radical humanist in that way. He's a pretty decent person, generally speaking. Obviously, he does some pretty fucked up shit sometimes. But, like, overall, he's, like, pretty nice to people. He's pretty polite. Maybe too polite sometimes. So, theoretically, a lot of that is upbringing. Because, nature, nurture, etc., etc. It's usually nurture that's playing a big part there. It's almost never nature, as it would turn out. But that said, like, we only see the parents when he's already, like, living on his own. So, is SpongeBob a good dad to Gary? I would say he's a pretty okay one. He's regularly feeding him. He's washing him. Gary, that is. Now, he's a working sponge, so he's out of the house a fair amount, unfortunately. Could probably be more responsible when it comes to how much socializing Gary is getting. But we don't know. Maybe snails are like cats, for instance. Because, like, that's the analog given, because Gary literally meows. But, like, maybe snails are more like reptiles, where they don't need as much enrichment. Now, I don't think that's actually true, because Gary is actually fairly intelligent, we find out in the show. So it is actually more likely that he requires a lot more enrichment and, like, socialization than, say, even a cat would, which do require a fair amount. Probably more akin to, like, a bird, which are the most high-maintenance pet that people generally might have and shouldn't, because they're too much work and money, and they should never have been domesticated, but Pandora's box is now open, so if people are able to, like, provide the labor, work, and constant socializing to be literally another bird for this creature, and you have the time to do it, then more power to you. There are birds out there that need homes. But anyway, that's a topic for another day. When it comes to other good dads, like I say, it's a tough question because of what we've already said. Miles Morales' dad? Well, the thing about Miles Morales' dad is that we're talking about when you were a kid. So there are going to be people who are a kid when they've seen Into and Across the Spider-Verse. And at that point, like, the social zeitgeist is kind of changed. And there are actually more modern kids media where, like, the father figures and whatnot are maybe better because, like, the tropes have kind of fallen off as we progressed in time. So, like, technically you could answer that as a question, but I saw Into and Across the Spider-Verse as an adult, so I can't really use that. I don't think Mr. Krabs is a great dad. But we also don't know where Pearl lives, because Pearl doesn't live with him. I think Mr. Krabs is a victim of divorce court, and it's kind of evidenced by a lot of his character, but that's a story for another day. It's also possible that Pearl was adopted, or, like, married into, because I don't know how the biology works. I don't know that a crab makes a whale, even if mating with a whale, because they don't do that in real life. Do you think Mr. Krabs would be a conservative? Absolutely, yes. Are you kidding? He's a fucking small business tyrant. He is literally, definitionally, by how the show portrays him, a commentary on capitalism. And how, your boss is a piece of shit. You really think Mr. Krabs pays his child support? Come on now. What other dads in media that I've seen when I was a kid? Naruto's parents are non-existent because, spoiler alert, for the first episode of Naruto, they passed away when saving the entirety of Konoha from the Nine-Tailed Fox. So, can't really use that. In that moment, though, were they good parents? Maybe. There's an argument to be made that sealing a nearly god-level powerful creature into your infant child's body is not the best way to dispatch the genocidal threat of a god-level creature like that. But if it was literally the only option, because it's a very drastic one, then, you gotta crack a few eggs to make an omelet. Mufasa, actually, good example, I think. If I can recall correctly, he's actually in the actual Lion King, not the one that we will not name, directed by Jon Favreau. Absolute abomination that it was. I hear it's more like a theory than an actual piece of media. Because he's actually, funnily enough, memes aside, Mufasa is a worse father in the so-called live-action Lion King than the original, in ways that I don't understand why they did it, or made those changes. But anyway, I think Mufasa in Lion King is a pretty good dad overall. There are probably ways I could look at and be like, yeah, that was a mistake, or yeah, that was probably not good. But, like, given the circumstances, I think he was a pretty decent dad. He was a good role model for Simba, generally speaking. He was also pretty chill as well, not, like, super strict. He was strict when he needed to be, but it was clearly in moments when he needed to be, like when Simba nearly got himself and Nala killed by going to the hyena den thing outside of the orders of, his dad and mom. So, like, being strict in that instance makes a lot of sense. But even then, like, he's a tender kind of strict in the movie, where, like, it's clear that Mufasa's not angry at Simba for having disobeyed him, but rather he's angry at Simba because he's worried that he could have died, because he literally could have died, and gotten Nala killed, too. And the anger there then stems not from the disobeyal, but rather the worry that a father has for the well-being of his children. And in this case, Nala's not Mufasa's daughter, I don't think. So, like, broadly, like, being the leader of the pack, being the head lion in the pride, Nala is technically one of Mufasa's children, so to speak, in that way. Like, he plays a fatherly role in terms of, I am literally the leader of this entire civilization. And it's pretty familial in the show, too. But I don't know, like, I wouldn't expect the show to have, like, an obvious incestuous relationship between fucking Simba and Nala, okay? But there's a lot of incest that happens in the animal kingdom. We've kind of grown out of that, luckily, as the human animal we are. Societally speaking, we understand that it's not really the greatest. There are arguments to be made about, like, consenting adults and whatnot, but, like, if you want to marry your second cousin, like, it's not my business, okay? Just be careful, all right? There should be a lot of safeguards in place there to make sure people are being not insane. Anyway, I wouldn't do it. But yeah, so I think Mufasa is a good example. But other dads, let's see if I can think of them. And it has to be from media I watched as a kid. I think there's an argument to be made that SpongeBob's dad is okay, but I don't know as much. There's more, like, revealed about SpongeBob's upbringing, I think, later on in the show, and, like, the parents as characters get fleshed out a bit more as the show goes on, I think. But it's been a long time since I've watched it, obviously. It seems like SpongeBob's dad was probably an okay dude, though, when it comes to parenting. I think Dexter's laboratory, I don't think the parents are very present. I don't think the parents are even aware of, like, the fact that Dexter has a whole-ass laboratory, right? So in that way, they're kind of bad parents, because, like, he's doing some dangerous shit, and you should probably be aware of that. I think it's fine if you have, like, a genius child like Dexter, that you, like, nurture those abilities and allow him to, like, pursue that path if he wants to, and, like, make sure he's being very safe about it and have, like, a lot of safeguards and, like, regulations and rules and whatnot, and he maybe even get, like, other scientists and whatnot involved. So even if, like, Dexter's parents were really good parents, outside of not knowing about that shit, the fact that they didn't know about that shit makes them not the greatest parents, considering, he's put in life-threatening situations all the time. And Dee Dee is, for that matter, as well. Obviously, the parents in the Ed, Edd and Eddy universe are non-existent. This is hard, and it's hard for a reason. I like the thought exercise, which is why I'm spending so much time on it. What about the dad from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air? I feel like it's a mixed bag there. I don't remember too much, though, but I remember watching it as a kid. I remember watching Family Matters as a kid, too. But I don't remember the dad from that show that much. Uncle Phil, was it his uncle? It wasn't like, it was father figure, so we're not saying, like, biological father. We're saying father figure, so we could, like, talk about both there. I forget a lot about the show. I'm just, like, spitballing ideas. Oh, yeah, that's right. It's literally the Philadelphia, born and raised, auntie, whatever. That's right. His actual dad's a piece of shit? Yeah, well, obviously. But I don't know much about Uncle Phil. Family Matters, yeah, I forget. His dad's a cop. Or the dad figure is a cop in Family Matters, so that's an L off the bat. But I don't remember a whole lot about the show. What about Full House? Bob Saget as a dad. Wasn't Bob Saget a pretty good dad? What was his name in the show of his character? I remember Full House. I think it was okay. Uncle Phil has a temper, but he cares. Well, managing that temper is part of what being a good role model entails, right? What the fuck was Bob Saget's character's name in Full House? Rest in peace. Danny Tanner, thank you very much. Danny Phantom, that's right. I think it was pretty good. Pretty good dad. There's also the other guy that all the women who watched the show found very attractive, the, for lack of a better word, greaser. I don't remember his name, but he becomes a parent later on in the show to twins with one of the hottest moms in media at the time, whose name I also forget. Jesse? Yeah. I don't know how good of a father he was. Ed and Eddy was my favorite show. I really liked Ed and Eddy too. So that we got two 3 if we count SpongeBob's dad, which I'm counting for the sake of this exercise. We need 2 more. We got SpongeBob's dad, we got Mufasa from The Lion King, we got Danny Tanner from Full House. Now, and we're not even going to watch this whole video, but like I can kind of get where we're going for here. I just wanted to watch up until where the trans stuff came in because it was a Polgar's clip, and I wanted to see what was up. Did you watch Avatar? Unfortunately, no, but I will. I think I'll start with a Netflix adaptation because I hear it's better, but then I'll go to the original animated show. Just kidding. I will watch the animated show at some point. It's definitely on the list. I think it's fairly long, though, isn't it? But it's really good here. It's just a matter of putting in the time. It's a shame, though. I wish I watched it as a kid. 3 seasons at 24 eps? Wait, no, it's super short? Really? I thought it was very long. Oh, yeah, Walter White. That was a great father in media. What else is there? Does Steve from Blue's Clues count as a father figure for Blue? Because she was well taken care of. Blue was? She was very well taken care of in that show. I don't think he counts, though. Unfortunately. We just got a letter. We just got a letter. We just got a letter. I wonder who it's from. A banger. I love that show as a kid. That was my show as a kid, actually. We just a letter. Oh, you could. Oh shit! You could do a fucking drill beat to that. So you add that, and then. No, it's a little too fast, actually. There's something there. Anyway, what the fuck else is there? Lucius Malfoy? Very funny. From what I remember from Harry Potter, I only saw, when I was a kid anyway, I only saw Philosopher's Stone and The Snake One. Chamber of Secrets. Pretty sure Lucius Malfoy was a piece of shit, though. Or the Malfoy dad. I think it's Lucius. The movie Lucius was even worse than the books. That's fucked up. Blue's Clues, if Steve was a trans woman and it was updated for the social media landscape, we just got a death threat. We just got a death threat. Jesus, that's bleak. But if we don't laugh, we cry, okay? Thank you for that, Avila. Did you watch Kung Fu Panda? No. Unfortunately. Yeah, I guess we could count movies as well. Because we did with Lion King. At this point, I'm spending too much time on this. How about Stu from Rugrats? I don't remember a whole lot. All I know is that I did watch it. I also had a game of it that was like very uncanny on the PC. But all I remember from that is the clip where Stu is making pudding at 3 a.m. and his wife asks why, and he says, "I've lost control of my life." Frankly, I felt that shit. At least I do now. Well, maybe I did before. My life is more in control than it ever has been. But, you know, in my contemporary life. Rugrats parents were kind of good at not noticing their children doing a lot of adventuring. That's true, yeah. But that's usually the case in a lot of these shows. So, like, that's kind of a given, unfortunately. Now, that is a mark against them, but I feel like it's something that just comes with the territory in the media. Because otherwise, like, the show would be fairly boring. Darkwing Duck seemed like a good dad. I never saw it. Damn. What about Bugs Bunny? Bugs Bunny sired, like, 12 children. Kidding. Wasn't there, like, an offshoot where he did have children? Or am I thinking of something else? What about the dad from Alvin and the Chipmunks? He was the dad. Like, that's what he was. The only thing from Alvin and the Chipmunks I remember is Christmas time is here. Time for toys and time for cheer. I remember that song because my dad would play it in the car when it was Christmas time. Time for cheer. Time for queer. I didn't really watch too much Alvin and the Chipmunks. Yeah, celebrity children, that's true. I would say, like, can we count Jerry Trainer as Carly Shay's dad? Because he is the father figure, but, like, her dad is in existence. He's just in the military and, you know, stationed away, which often happens for military dads, unfortunately. Her mom, however, is MIA. I don't actually know about that too much. But, I don't think that Spencer, that was his name, right? Because he was Crazy Steve and Drake and Josh. Spencer, not the best father figure, mostly because he wasn't really trying to be one. He was just like a guardian. Also not the worst, though. Yeah, I'm out of... I could think of more, but, like, I'm taking too much time.
Legitimately, go down to the comments, type out who comes to mind, because
I won't.
I consume a lot of media, and I had a hard time making this list. Back when we brought Leon as creative director here on Film Theory, this was actually one of the first conversations he and I had about the state of media. Even more recently, we've asked this question around the office, and people really struggle with it. I mean, it's not impossible to come up with a list. You'll eventually get there, but it's
Spencer held it down, though, paid the bills and cared for Carly and her friends. That's true.
shockingly hard. Our list ended up being Bandit from Bluey, Arthur Weasley from Harry Potter, Uncle Iroh from Avatar: The Last Airbender, Mufasa from Lion King, and Goofy from a Goofy movie.
Oh,
But
that's
the fact that it
true!
took
Goofy! Gorsh. What other sounds? I used to know how to do one. Oh, yes, when Goofy gets hurt, it's Yahoo! That's what I know. And the Garsh, of course. Man, I liked Goofy as a kid. I think I would have only seen him. I was kind of young enough for Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. I did see, of course, Goofy movie. I enjoyed it.
a significant amount of time to do is pretty darn telling. Fathers in sitcoms are usually bumbling buffoons, deadbeat dads, or need anger management. And it's not just a lack of good dads here either. Honestly, most of the male characters that you see across media, both young and old, they're not great. Classic cartoon kids are almost...
It is the case, though, that this is kind of a reflection of the broader, social conditioning that, like, all parents get, but specifically dads in this instance, where they're expected to be kind of this way. And sure, it's, like, caricaturized in the media that's being referenced here, but it's a caricature of an already bad thing and a thing that actually exists in actual reality. The tough love, the corporal punishment shit, like spanking and whatnot, which is literally just child abuse. Conservatives really like it, though, for unknown reasons. The toxic standards for either masculinity or femininity, depending on, like, the child in question here, what their, assumed gender is. There's a lot of negative consequences to that kind of social conditioning that leads fathers to think they're doing a good thing when it turns out a lot of the time it's literally abuse. And that's not good, in my opinion. I think that, child abuse is bad, as it would turn out. I know it's a hot take, but woke conservatives out there, they like to argue that it's not a bad thing. I will come out on the side of the righteous and say that it's bad, actually. To hit your kids, to verbally abuse your kids, it's not good shit. Also a lot of manipulation that a lot of bad parents will end up doing. Not good stuff. And these depictions of fathers in the media that we're talking about are a reflection and a caricaturized version of that bad thing. So theoretically, in the instances where it's not portrayed badly and it's like an actual good father figure and whatnot in the media, that could be an effort to change that, for one. Or it could be emblematic of a change already having happened, especially now for newer media, if there are fathers that are portrayed in a better way. Because a lot of these negative things that were previously part and parcel to parenting and expected are now being seen for the negatives that they are, and even, like I say, abuse in a lot of instances, and are no longer happening and are actively condemned when they're seen to have happened. And it's not to say that you can't show that in media. It's just that if you do show, like, a shitty father or a shitty mother in media, you need to make it clear to the audience that that's not a good thing, and that the fact that they are that way is bad, and it should be, like, a teachable moment. And in some instances, maybe, like, open up the eyes of the kid watching to, like, wow, my dad is like that, and that's not good. That might be something I want to worry about and maybe, talk to a trusted authority figure about, It's just shown as default so often, the bad shit. Yeah, it's not good. And I think that's also why a lot of the times men are seen in these shows and fathers are seen as not only as, like, mean and bad and abusive, but also they're like the comic relief for being really incompetent and stupid. It's to counteract that. I think it's a potentially a not great way of, like, diffusing the fact that they're really shitty dads to the audience. Because, like, you'll see Red Foreman be, like, an absolutely abusive piece of shit to his kids and even, his kids' friends. And then if they ever show him being, like, incompetent and stupid and make him, like, the butt of a joke or the comic relief, that's kind of a way to be like, haha, isn't it so funny that this bad thing happened to him? And you're allowed to laugh at the bad thing happening to him because he's a very obviously shitty dad. Right? I think that's often how that's happening in media, and I don't think that's a great way of portraying that, he's a bad dad and dad shouldn't be like that, because it also has the negative consequence of just, like, smearing all dads or men as like that in some ways. It's a tough line to walk. It's not easy, but I think that's kind of where that comes from.
Bratty, cruel, greedy, or inconsiderate.
Hey, Brooke! Why do you do this? You're so stupid!
Even the oldest of old school animated characters that have been sanitized to be as brand safe and neutral today as possible, they started off as horrible jerks.
True.
Abruptly, he becomes an uncontrollable monster.
They're angry, they're violent, they're not good people. So why do I bring it up in my final episode? Well, as a dad, I've started to pay a lot more attention to these sorts of
Now, today I learned MatPat is a father.
things in the media that I watch
know
because I want to know if it's something that I can actually share with Ollie. And surprisingly, there isn't a lot that I'm super happy with sharing. And it all comes down to a lack of shows with characters that I actually want Ollie to grow up to be like. Now, I can't stress enough
Fair.
that we live in the most open time ever for children's entertainment. Newer
We live in a society. To be true.
shows like The Owl House, Amphibia, and Kippo and the Age of the Wonder Beasts are given voices to historically underrepresented groups as both creators and characters. There
Hell
is
yeah.
something in there for everyone, and that's awesome. But the pickings for boy characters that I want my son to try to be like, of male characters that I want him to look up to, they are mighty slim, my friends. That's kind of a problem. So today, I want
I
to
like how Gollum was in there.
look at why. Why are there so few of these truly great role models for boys? Why, in this era where we have more choice in what we can watch than ever before, are there so few choices that have good male role models for my son to look up to? Well, after diving into the history and economics of this sort of media, it all comes down, as it so often does, to money. Surprise, surprise. Don't touch that dial, my friends. It's time to crack
Suspicious.
this case wide open. So to start things out, it should be noted that gender identity for
Okay,
young
and now why we're watching the beginning of this video to begin with, which was that I was linked this this clip from someone in chat about MatPat being pro-trans and whatnot. Now we finally have reached that point. I don't know if I'm gonna watch the rest of this, by the way, but I think I've like covered a lot of the topics that might come up, and you know we link it in the description. Obviously, this nearly 1 million view video in 7 hours from this 12.9 million subscriber channel needs my shout out because I'm just such a bigger figure and I wouldn't want to like leech content in that way. I think that'd be pretty bad and rude of me to do. So I will link it in the comments. I encourage you all to watch the full video on your own. We might even get this channel up to 22 million subs if all of you who are sub to me sub to Film Theorists. So this is the last video, so your mileage may vary. Or maybe that's just MatPat's last video, and maybe it'll go on with MatPat 2, the next installment, as the host. Who knows? I don't actually know.
friends, it's time to crack this case wide open. So to start things out, it should be noted that gender identity for young
It's not the last, I see.
children doesn't really become a factor for several years into their life. According to research, most kids don't start to identify with one gender or another until the age of 3. And it's
He's got a person taking over for each channel? That makes sense.
important that they're encouraged to explore that at their own pace. The last thing we want to do is to sort kids who are still discovering themselves into boxes. And likewise, children can of course have role models who are not the same sex or gender that they are. It is awesome for boys to have role models who are women, vice versa, and everyone beyond and in between the binary. I'm just talking about it.
And that's the end of the clip that we saw. It's a good clip, and I agree with the content of it. Let's see what else happens. Because I just wanted to see the lead up and then the continuation a little bit.
Today because I want to make sure that there are good examples set across the board for everyone. And right now, the male category, pretty severely lacking. And me saying that might come as a bit of a surprise, right? Like, there are a ton of male characters out there in media. They have been the bedrock, the focus of entertainment forever. So how am I possibly
Mike Wazowski.
standing here saying we need more male role models? Well, this is one of those episodes where just looking at the numbers isn't going to be telling you the whole story.
Well, I have to say, it's not that we need more male role models. We need more good male role models. That's the problem. And like I say, I think it's bad to have, like, dudes who are bad in media. Like Walter White, even though a lot of the people who really like the show kind of miss the point on, like, Walter White and Gus Fring when it comes to what it means to be a man and whatnot. They kind of, like, took the wrong takeaway from it. It's not to say that you can't have bad, like, people as male characters, but we just need more good ones, too.
A 2008 study from Television conducted across 24 countries found that there were twice as many male characters than female characters in children's TV. A decade later, a similar study from the Gina Davis Institute on Gender and Media found that roughly half of all episodes of children's entertainment had female leads. That is good news.
Based?
Everything's balanced as all things should be. So
True.
what's the problem? Well, again, let me be clear.
Noted gender abolitionist Thanos. I've never seen any media that Thanos is in. I have no idea what I'm saying.
This isn't a case of where are the male characters. There are plenty of them out there. We are
Maybe he's just a liberal, you know, and he's just like, yeah, you know, I'm okay with people being trans and whatnot, because I get like being a trans woman or a trans man, but I don't really get the non-binary stuff. But it's not really a problem. I'm not gonna do anything about it. Like, I'm not mad about it. I just don't get it. Maybe he's like that.
tripping over them. Instead, this is a conversation about the quality of those characters. What's going on with the types of male characters that we keep seeing? Have you ever stopped and considered how many of them actually embody the traits that you would want a kid to emulate? At a quick glance, the modern era, it's seen a wide spectrum of overwhelmingly positive, affirming female and female-coded characters. You have everything from Doc McStuffins to the Miraculous Ladybug, Hello Kitty, Bluey, Luz from the Owl House, most of the gems from Steven Universe, Carmen Sandiego, who's apparently a hero
Where the fuck is she? I have yet to find this woman.
now. Barbie just had herself an empowering live-action adaptation, and she's also sort of a YouTube vlogger dishing out shockingly solid mental health advice.
Maybe I'm just being really unfair on myself. You know, I don't always have to be upbeat and positive.
Even parodies of the overconfident, self-reliant neo-heroine like Princess Bubblegum from Adventure Time ultimately get to be effective political leaders, excel at STEM fields, kick butt on the
Isn't she kind of a piece of shit, though? I have not seen Adventure Time. It's another show I need to watch. But isn't she kind of like a piece of shit in some other ways? That's what I've heard, is that she is not the best person given her position of power. Now, I couldn't, like, go over exactly why, because I don't have enough. I just remember hearing that. So if I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong in the comments or whatever. I think part of the problem is what we used to think of as heroic for men, we're starting to realize is toxic. Yeah. There's a lot of elements of what used to be considered how men should be that through, you know, progressing as a society, we've now realized are bad. And we need to retool all of the shit to match a better, more positive depiction that's just better for everybody, you know?
battlefield and get the girl in the end. The fact that these characters exist, that is awesome. I don't want to take anything away from that. And if this
I should say, by the way, Princess Bubblegum being a piece of shit is a good thing, actually. As long as the show tells you that she is, if that is the case, right? If it's not, like, glorified, like, oh, yeah, she's a piece of shit, and that's a good thing. That's not good. But there being, like, female characters that are bad, I think is a good thing, because a lot of the times women and girls are kind of like paternalized and minimized in terms of like their impact, generally speaking, be it positive, neutral, or negative, to the point where like if there is a bad character, it can be like hand waved, like oh well, she's a woman, so like how much of a bad thing could it really be? How much of an impact could it possibly have on society because women are already so little impact, blah blah blah, and that's bad, obviously. But having characters that are women and are seen to be bad and demonstrating why they are is good because it shows them that they're just like everybody else, shockingly. Men can be bad, men can be good. Women can be bad, women can be good. Anybody else, like all the in-betweens, bad, good, yada, yada. And it actually gives them like agency in the narrative where usually a lot of that agency is stripped away, you know? The Mean Girls trope was getting tired for me.
How we're overcorrecting for decades of women being trapped as damsels in distress or trophies, I am all about that. But then you look over at the boys and things get a bit more complicated. Sure, there are some truly great and kind characters that I do want my son to look up to. For as much fun as I've had here on the channel saying that he's actually a ruthless businessman, Ryder from the Paw Patrol, fantastic role model. He's
That's
smart,
true.
he's resourceful, he's caring, he's a leader. And
I remember I would go to sleep in high school watching Nick at Night because George Lopez would be on, and I'd fall asleep to it. And then when I would wake up, Paw Patrol would be on because it would switch from Nick at Night to like Nickelodeon Kids or whatever. And that's the only exposure I ever had to Paw Patrol because I'd be too lazy to change the channel because like I'd be trying to go back to bed anyway and it would be on so I would see it. And I have to say, I think the coolest dog or one of the cooler ones was the one that dealt with the water. I think he was like a conservationist. So that's my take.
It was
That's
awesome
just my
that
opinion.
Ollie dug that series, probably in part because he saw Ryder and wanted to connect with him. Same thing with Dipper.
I just like the water, though, is the thing. You could also say, like, the one who has the plane is cool, too, because I like flight and, you know, aerial creatures and whatnot, but it's a girl, so I like the water one more. Oh, no, I think she has a helicopter.
Gravity Falls. Also a win for being smart, curious, brave, and a loving brother. Also, there's a handful of solid early educational programs.
Oh, yeah, I forgot I watched Gravity Falls as an adult. Grunkle Stan. Good father figure, totally not bad in any way, in any way, you know? Totally a good guy, holistically.
With male protagonists like Arthur, Thomas the Tank Engine, Daniel Tiger.
I would say male role model in that instance, but he is, you know, acting out the part of a guardian at the very least.
It's worth calling out how few of them are actually human. But let's talk for a minute about the characters that you'd typically see come up in a conversation like this, right? Well, the problem here is that they tend to have a huge asterisk attached to their names. Captain America, Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, the Ninja Turtles, they're all—
I know nothing about any of these, so maybe this is where I should dip out. The only Spider-Man media that I've seen is Into and Across the Spider-Verse, both of which are fantastic films and works of art, frankly. That's a very cold take, of course, but it's a cold take for a reason. And then, of course, the other piece of Spider-Man media I know is one of the greatest songs to grace this planet we call Earth, which is the Spider-Man pizza theme, which is like, I don't know if you would call it a remix, but this is like a classic Italian song from Italy. It's very good. Hey, mamma mia. Excuse me. It's a good-ass song.
great, but the stories also involve a lot of war, crime, death, fighting in general. They tend to solve most of their problems through punching and physical violence.
Oh, Jacob Geller reference, though not indirectly. Jacob Geller, by the way, fantastic video essayist, had a video, which was one of the reasons why I played Sifu to begin with. I beat it, got both endings, and I'm still trying to like unlock some shit for it. I've got like a whole bunch of hours in it. I want to tell you about my favorite fight scene, good-ass video. Also talks about how a lot of the times in media that we're consuming, the way conflict is resolved is through violence, through like a final fight, and there's a lot of interesting commentary on that. And involves a whole bunch of different properties like Ip Man, like The Matrix and John Wick. I'm just going through ones that I've seen or played. Sifu, motherfucking Metal Gear Solid 4. A lot of good shit. Highly recommend. Here's the link for people in chat. And that's your watch later, watch it later. It's good as hell.
Aang, Luke Skywalker, Harry Potter, they're selfless heroes who do what they think's right no matter what the cost. But they're also sitting smack dab in franchises built on needing to be violent, fighting, often killing soldiers, stormtroopers, dark wizards. Not generally a drawback that you're facing from traditionally feminine skewing characters like Sophia the First or Elena of Avalor. And if they're not violent or
True, exactly. So the solution here is not to stray from conflict being resolved exclusively through violence, and that's the only way you can do it when it comes to representation of boys and men in media, but rather women and girls in media need to be represented in the same way because we need more feminine violence. That's true equality.
surrounded by violence, well, very often they're just not good. Johnny Bravo's a big ol' womanizer. Timmy Turner's a whiny, spoiled narcissist. Jimmy Neutron's arrogant, destructive, mean to girls, and regularly uses his intelligence as an excuse for being a jerk to his friends. Even Phineas and Ferb, who are smart and resourceful and funny, are outright disobeying their parents each and every day of summer. It's actually the reason Ollie wanted to stop watching the show. He was afraid of them getting in trouble for constantly breaking the rules episode after episode.
That's
I think
wholesome.
you get the idea. Look at media through this sort of lens and suddenly you see examples everywhere you go. Just to get some hard numbers in here, that same Gina Davis study that I mentioned earlier noted that male characters, they're more likely to be violent compared to female characters, and also almost twice as likely to be depicted as a criminal. Remember,
Shocking.
we're not talking about fun characters to watch, or characters that you like. I think most of the examples I listed above fall into at least one of those two categories. No, we're talking about characters that are admirable role models for young boys.
There are some contexts where a little violence is needed. Yeah, obviously, and I think it's important to include it in media, even like children's media, because you can't always diplomacy your way out of every negative situation. Like if you're being aggressed upon by a masked gunman and your only option is to kill them before they kill you, then yeah, you're probably gonna want to kill that guy because they're the aggressor. You would be a victim to that, and unfortunately, you may have to take their life to defend your own and your loved ones. That's, a fair use of violence, I think. Self-defense. There's also the defense of self and others, frankly, like you saw with World War II. Defeating the Nazis, the fascists in Germany, was very important. And, I'm sure diplomacy was tried. That's obviously, you're going to want that to be the first thing that's attempted. But it seemed to be past that point where that would be effective. So if what it takes is absolutely stomping the fascists into the dirt through military might and violence to solve that problem and defend the lives of those who have not yet been claimed by that evil regime, I'd say that's a pretty good use of violence. I am in support of, Nazis being stopped through violence. I think because their ideology is inherently violent. The world they want to build requires violence in order to be successful, because their worldview is, only white people. Everybody else is either second-class citizens or gone. It requires violence in order to build and maintain that kind of world. And the violence it requires is enacted against innocent people who are just the victims of their twisted ideology, claiming that they are lesser than, the people who are the in-group in that instance. So because that ideology necessitates violence, especially against innocent people, I think responding in violence with kind to make sure that the violence that they would seek never comes to pass is a good idea. And that's why I think the Nazis getting their shit kicked in, well, it didn't happen soon enough during World War II, is a really good idea. And any would-be Nazis or neo-Nazis in contemporary America and around the world should be very afraid to be public with their insane, violent views. And, if it requires the violence of the state to clamp down on that rather than, individuals, no skin off my back. I'm not often advocating for the absolute, relegation of certain demographics to second-class citizens or their, removal from the living plane. So I don't have to worry about that too much. Should it be the case that the state decides to pretend that I am and use it against me, they will have already, regardless of the precedent being set. So, it is what it is. We'd be way further ahead as it pertains to gender-affirming care and resources and research around gender if it wasn't for the Nazis. Yeah, some of the first books that were banned, if not the first books that were banned, were for the German Institute of Sexual Health, which was founded by Magnus Hirschfeld, who was a Jewish gay man. And it was ransacked and burned by the, I believe it was the Hitler Youth. And it included a lot of research and information as it pertains to biology, sociological concepts around gender and biological sex and all this other shit. The first vaginoplasty was done there. It's theorized that it's possible the recipient of the first vaginoplasty, if she didn't escape, may have been killed by the Nazis in that instance as well. Also, when Jewish people were liberated from the concentration camps, and from prison broadly in Germany after the Nazis fell in World War II, queer people remained, in those jails and were not liberated. So that's not great. There was a whole triangle for them during the Nazi regime, which was a pink triangle to denote, I suppose they would say, degenerate queers of a variety of stripes. The Allies were not queer allies, unfortunately not, but there weren't many queer allies at the time to begin with. So you're already fighting an uphill battle for queer rights. Fucking women were already fighting an uphill battle for women's rights, like biological women, much less trans women. And still are, but at least it's a little bit better. Anyway, back to Paw Patrol.
Whose activity we want them to imitate or look up to as they develop during childhood. I also want to reaffirm, I personally like all of these shows and movies. There is no judgment here if you're a fan of any of these sorts of things, but they're just not shows that I can show.
I'm judging, however.
Ollie until he's much, much older because of the implicit lessons that they contain. Boys are violent. You solve your problems with punching. If you break rules and treat people badly, don't worry, there are no real consequences. You're the main character of your own show, and everything just works out well for you. So with all of that established, I think we can start to discuss why things have ended up this way.
And if you want to learn more about why MatPat thinks this and the theory behind the film and media, that's just a theory, however, you can watch the rest of the video. We'll link it in the description. Tell them Conure sent you, I guess. They need the boost from me. But I think I already went through a lot of it. I'll probably watch this on my own time afterward, and should it be the case that I find something that's super interesting that was brought up that I hadn't thought of or talked about, I might talk about it again in the future on my live streams, or maybe even in a video, maybe even as like an addendum to a video on an unrelated topic, who's to say? But yeah, go check it out. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Be good people. Conure Thani Fantano. Good male role models in media forever.